Yeah, so this actually ended up getting covered like on Rolling Stone. So good for her. She got like a lot of good press for this, I would say. I think it's
Good
pretty
press
funny.
or press? Let's just say it's formal
I mean,
press.
for her, for what I think she's like an OnlyFans sort
Yeah,
of like,
you're
she's
right.
kind of like a porn star,
For her
right? So for
business,
her, this
yeah.
is great. This is awesome. Good morning, marketers. We're back, episode number 12. And Andrew has taken a day off, and Yaro Starak has joined me. Yaro Starak, a lot of people know him. When I first met Yaro, I didn't know that he was a famous person, but apparently he's a very famous person.
You're the only
he
one,
used
Matt.
to have he used to have a very famous blog called Entrepreneur Journey. I should be clear, it was Entrepreneur Journey, which was very
Journey to be absolutely accurate.
Entrepreneurs. Okay, there was an S.
Terrible domain name.
So he clearly didn't know that you're not supposed to put dashes inside your domain name, but it was a very famous blog. And then now he's Yaro.blog, which is a great domain name. I'm down with Yaro.blog. Did you have to pay a premium for that, or it was available?
There's not many Yaros in the world, Matt. So no, I got it for
Really?
$8.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, really? Okay. That's a good domain name, so I approve. And you transferred the whole blog, the whole site over?
Yeah, I did. It was one of those scary things, though. You know, like you're gonna lose all your traffic, and
Yeah.
it was like
Yeah,
a
I know.
15-year-old domain name when I did that. So fingers
Right.
crossed.
Did you lose a lot of traffic?
If I remember right, I think I did initially like drop 50%, which to be honest, I was expecting, because that's what happens apparently. But then it kind of slowly went back up to maybe 90%. It never went back to exactly where it was before though. So, is what it is.
Interesting. I mentioned that you were going to come on the show to another internet marketing friend, and right away he's like, "Oh, I know that guy. He's like Entrepreneur's Journey. He's like great blog." And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "How do you know this guy?" Anyway, so yeah, you're famous in the blog sphere. Yaro now has a startup called Inbox Done, helps people manage their email, and he's got more things going on business wise, which we can get into over time. Maybe we'll get into it later in the show. Let's see. But you guys are listening to the show now to hear what's happening in the world of creators, publishers, and marketers. And we've lined up some stories for you that should be interesting. We're going to be talking about Google Workspace, some updates happening on Facebook Reels, or I should say Instagram Reels, possibly inside of Creator Studio and Business Suite and what's kind of going on there. LinkedIn, some new updates to LinkedIn that impact people who have a creator profile. In a previous episode, we talked about enabling creator profile. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about some new features inside of TikTok and how to potentially go viral on TikTok. And then also some updates on some new tools being available for Twitter. And I think Twitter's got some cool stuff going on. And then we have a really fun story at the end about having sex with Instagram employees. We're going to save that one. Little cliffhanger for you guys to stick around.
Not sure you phrased that exactly right, Matt, but close enough.
Whatever. I think it's a really funny story. All right, so let's get into it. So our first story here is around Google Workspace. So Yaro saw this on the agenda for today, and he thinks it's going to be very boring to talk about, but there's a reason I want to talk about this. So I used G Suite. So Google Workspace used to be G Suite. They rebranded to Google Workspace maybe a year ago or so, okay? And so G Suite allows you to have a business email address, right? So for example, I have, matt@webfriendly.com. Originally that was a G Suite email address. So if you want to have like an email address attached to your domain name, that's what you're going to need. Do you use G Suite, Yaro?
I did very briefly, but honestly, we just use normal Google now. We never needed, we use aliases on our domain name, so I can still have Yaro@Yaro.blog, but it goes to a shared Gmail without the G Suite part of it. So.
Oh, so your email is at Gmail?
Yeah, so we have a catch-all Gmail account. So, I mean, it's
Oh,
funny
I see.
actually. My original one was registered back in the Entrepreneur's Journey days. So it's also not the best email account. It's blogproductsupport@gmail.com. And everything in that coaching business, I had Yaro@blogmastermind.com, Yaro@Entrepreneur's Journey. All those domains went and got redirected into that one Gmail account.
Great. So we're using, business wise, we needed to have business email address to try to, pretend we're professional. We set this up, and then I had other businesses and other domains, and I needed these email addresses for, and G Suite was just very difficult for me to manage. There's a lot to it, right?
Yeah.
You can do a lot of things with it. So I ended up moving over about 2 years ago to Zoho Mail.
Yeah, I do too.
So Zoho, yeah, Zoho has a whole suite of products. I find Zoho, I didn't know this, but they're like a 20-year-old company.
And they
They started in like,
huge. I remember looking
yeah,
at some numbers.
I think they started in like 1996 or something
Yeah,
like that,
I remember.
or something
Yeah,
1999. It was really old. I had no idea. They actually sponsored our events, Internet Masterminds events back in the day.
No way.
But even and that was the first time I'd ever heard of them at all. But anyways, so Zoho, very confusing about the amount of products that they have, but their mail product, in my opinion, is solid. Very easy to set up. I think they have 24/7 support. You can just call them. Like I literally was on the phone and they just set the whole thing up for me. So anytime I have to do anything, I just literally call their 1-800 number. Someone's on the phone within like 5 or 10 minutes.
Nice.
They help me, right? So I'm happy with it. It's also very inexpensive. You can create aliases, all the stuff, right? It's like $1.25 an email address, but an alias is free, right? I should say $1.25 a user, but you can have as many email addresses as you want if you set up aliases. Anyways, this doesn't have to do exactly with what happened with G Suite. So before G Suite used to have a free plan that you would eventually upgrade to. So what happened was when we set up G Suite, it also connected to our Google Docs, Calendar, and all these other things, right? So when I moved all my email hosting to Zoho, I didn't bother canceling G Suite. It was like, I want to say it was like less than $20 a month. And all my Google Docs were there. And I knew, because I've experienced this before, that it's very difficult to transfer your Google Docs to another account. So I didn't want to deal with it. So I just left it there and I was paying, I think it was like $15 a month or something like that. And I just ignored it. I just didn't care. But now Workspace has jacked up their prices. So what used to be $15 a month is now $70 per month. And I started noticing these bills coming in for $70, and I was like, well, okay, wait, now this is going to be like, close to $1,000 a year. And I was like, I'm not using anything except for I didn't want to go through the headache of transferring all my Google Docs. But now it's like $1,000. I'm like, okay, I'll spend a couple hours, I'll figure this out, right? So I did this over the weekend. This is like last Sunday. I was like, okay, I'll go and figure out how to do this. So I figured out transferring all my Google Docs over. And then I was like, okay, good. I got all my docs. It actually wasn't as hard as I anticipated, but it was still cumbersome to figure out, right? It's not clear. Let's just say that. It's definitely not clear. But you have to put everything into a shared folder. It's a new feature, okay? You move all your docs into a shared folder. You add your other Google account into the share folder, and then you could see it in your other Google account. Then you just transfer everything into your own Google Drive account. That's how you do it. So it is actually simple if you know how to do it, but it took me 2 hours to figure out how to do it with going through their support, all right? So then I cancel this Google Workspace, and then all of a sudden, I think the next day, I realized that I can't access Google Drive at all from my Google. Like I can't create a new I can't create a new Google Drive account. So usually Google Drive is free if you have a Google account, right? So I couldn't create a new one. I was like, oh, that's weird. And then I realized that my calendar wasn't working anymore. I was like, my calendar, and I have all these meetings going on. Right. So, and then my Calendly broke. So my Calendly was connected to my business email address. So now my Calendly's broken. My calendars don't work. I can't access Google Drive at all. And so my whole Monday is just like everything was just fucked up. I ended up spending over 4 hours troubleshooting, trying to figure it out. I joined Facebook groups and, that people with Google Workspace people, whatever. I was really digging. I ended up talking to Google Workspace support through Twitter. I DM'd them. Mm-hmm. They responded very quickly, and they explained to me that I can go and fuck myself. So basically what they're saying is that if you cancel Google Workspace, then Google will punish you by not allowing you to use any Google products with that email address ever again for the rest of your life. So I was like blown away. I was like, how could this be? Like, why would Google do this to people, right? And then I remembered that I came across this article here that's on my screen about this whole G Suite workspace, kind of what's going on there. So I'm going to break it down because there's 3 articles here. I got Google requiring all G Suite legacy free edition users to start paying for Google Workspace this year. So that was what I was originally on, was G Suite free edition. Then I upgraded to the paid edition at some point. Then it converted over to Workspace at some point, and then I started paying much higher fees. Then there's an updated article. So that first article came in on January 19th. Next article comes in on May 16th. It says Google lets personal users stay on no cost legacy G Suite with custom Gmail domain, right? So like, oh, cool. That means I should be able to stay on some free plan so I don't have to worry about Google screwing me over and not letting me use any Google product. So that's what I was kind of diving into. I was like, okay, well, I used to be on G Suite's free thing. How do I get back onto it? And basically, it's not there. So even though this article says that they are letting people do this, I've done some diving into this, and it appears that no one has actually seen this in their account. There is no free version of this. So,
Matt, is there like an army of angry people like yourself? I feel like you need to join this tribe and just vent for a little while.
There is. That's why when I first saw this article, I didn't get it. But people are pissed. People are saying that because anyone who had previously set up G Suite under the pretense that it was free to have a business email address with it, all of a sudden now Google is saying you got to pay up, and it's no longer like it used to be like, $15 a month. It's now $70 per month to do this, which is actually a lot compared to $1.25 at Zoho, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that this happened. Let's face it, like it makes a lot of sense from a business standpoint. You get people locked in, then you jack up the price, and then it's too hard to leave, as you're experiencing, right? So
but I mean, that's different from when they have Google Drive. They give you 20 gigs for free or something like that.
And I pay like $1.25 for 100, I think, on my.
Me too. Yeah. I pay for Google Drive. Same with iCloud got me. It was free at first. Now I pay, I don't know what I pay, $5-10 a month for iCloud, right? Which that's fair. Right? Like if you're using it a lot, people should pay. That's fine. I don't care about them also increasing their prices. I don't care about that. It's like whatever, right? That's their own prerogative. But the way that they made it so it's like it used to be a free offer and now it's like not free. And then if you cancel it, they just completely screw you over. Like I can't even use calendar, like my calendar. Like that was that's why I started getting into this, because my calendar broke.
Is there
right?
a petition that you've got set up for everyone to sign to complain or something like that?
This video is the petition, because I'm hoping that people are going to see this video will go viral, and then like Sergey Brim's going to call me up and personally apologize. That's the intention here.
I'm not count any chickens on that happening, but I wish you the best of luck. I know what it's like to be angry and have a vendetta at one of the big players in the market.
Yaro. Well, the thing is that this news is being covered. I mean, I found this here on 9to5google.com, right? Okay. So they've been covering this because people are like, hey, what do you mean? Like now I don't have a business email address anymore, right? So what I think Google should have done is so I want to back up here. So I found out, I thought I was being punished because I was a previous customer. Had I not been a previous customer, I could be setting up a Google account with any email address. You could set up a Google account even if you don't have you don't need to set up a Gmail address. When you set up a Gmail address, it creates a Google account, right? Mm-hmm. But you can create a Google account with any email address, right? So my understanding now, because before I thought they were specifically punishing past customers of G Suite or Workspace, right? That's why I was like, what? I'm like, how could they do that? So now I understand what happened. What it is that you can no longer, I think, I haven't tested this, but from my understanding of talking to their support, you can't create a Google account that accesses Drive, Calendar, or anything like that anymore with a business email address at all, regardless if you were a past customer or not. Because that's what was really irking me, was that I was being punished for being a past customer and canceling, right? That's what I'm still 100% on. But based on talking to their support, that's what I'm understanding now, is that you cannot create a Drive account, or you can't use Google Calendar at all with a business email.
As you're saying this, I'm into like Web3 and the decentralized web. And you're making me think how and this already exists, but it's not commonplace yet, is to have a decentralized identity. Like you said, you've got a Google account to access all the Google tools. You've got a Zoho account to access all the Zoho tools. And you got whatever, TikTok, right, Facebook, etc. And if we're heading to a Web3 world, you've got a Web3 identity, which is then your access to any kind of app, and be agnostic. You won't have to be with Google or Facebook. You can choose to be, but you keep your identity. And I kind of like the potential for that, like what you're talking about. Your calendar data, your email data would potentially exist in a centralized or blockchain. When I say centralized, not a decentralized way, but on a blockchain that is not owned by one company. And then you could just transfer between different tools. So you wouldn't have this issue where one company controls what you do. If they change prices, they change prices. But that's
Right.
going to be a hard change to make because everyone right now has a Google account and a Facebook account and a
Well,
Twitter account.
yeah, I'm not an expert at calendars, and I hate dealing with calendar syncing. It's like one of the things. Like,
Yeah, me
it
too.
used to be email hosting, used to be like my big pet peeve, and I got that figured out now because I've dealt with this so much. Calendar syncing, I hate it. So if because what happens in the past, I've actually lost deals over this. Where I had a prospect, we were talking about having a call together, then he had sent me a Google calendar invite to a meeting with all the executives. Like he was like ready to hire me.
Wow.
But he sent it to an old email address I don't even use anymore, right? So then I didn't even know the meeting was happening, and then I get a message from him, in the morning of the meeting. He's like, "Hey, where are you?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Hey, we have this meeting scheduled." I'm like, "What meeting?" And then later on, I had to prove to him. I'm like, "You sent it to this email address. I don't even have access to it." Like I showed him all the screenshots, but I think he was kind of mad at me. He never rescheduled. But I've also had other clients that in the past, they just know to schedule a calendar invite. This is the email address that I use on my Calendly. They're aware of the email address. So they'll just send me the invite that way, right? So how do people now, like what's an alternative way for people to send me a calendar invite if not through Google Calendar? Does Google have a monopoly on the calendar?
Not necessarily. Like not everyone uses Google's calendar. Like there's some people actually use. I'm looking at now the Mac OS calendar, the Zoho
No,
calendar.
I use iCal. No, I use iCal, right? So I'm just saying, how do I make it so somebody can just send? Because if other people are using Google Calendar, most people do,
Yeah.
and they want to just send me an invite from their calendar. You know how I send you an invite on the calendar,
Yeah,
right?
it goes to my
So how does
Gmail.
one do that? Yeah.
I mean,
so how does that work
I don't
now?
know. Like we use Calendly for all of our scheduling. Like for my company in particular, Inbox Done, we manage scheduling for clients as well. So this is obviously a big thing that we have to get right. And I think there's no solution really right now. It's all about, so what happened to you shouldn't happen because someone should also be verifying, hey, did you get the booking? I just want to make sure you're going to be there. Do you need anything for that event?
Right.
Like your assistant might follow up with that sort of thing. Because I hate it too. I so often will look for or miss an event because it wasn't in the calendar, and then you go back and you see there's some emails and you're like, but why didn't it actually go into the calendar? So I don't even trust the calendar. I will always check emails, especially for important stuff like a sales call like you're talking about there. But I think you actually bring up an amazing business opportunity for someone who could I don't know, come up with a better way to I'm not even sure how to do it. Maybe a calendar on blockchain is the way to go, because that would be something that would be, it's funny saying this, it's decentralized, but it's a centralized location for the data. Like it's only one place to go. So if they sent it to the wrong place, it would be impossible because you only have one address on the blockchain. So there's only one place your bookings could go to. I don't know. Someone's working on that, no doubt. But yeah, you're right. It's not a great system right now.
Interesting. Yeah, because I never realized until this happened to me that like you need Google Calendar. Like, you know what I mean? Like now I switched it over to my Gmail, right? But now I have a lot, like I never was the type that would create an event in my calendar and then send invites inside the calendar invite. I just did it to you when we were doing this thing, but I told you I did it, right?
Yeah.
But I never do that. But I noticed like recently a lot of people do that all the time.
Yeah. Oh,
and
lots of
then
people
I've
do
always
that.
like,
Yeah.
I miss things. Yeah, I miss things
Calendly.
because of
I mean,
that.
Calendly should trigger.
I
the
use
creation
Calendly
as well, right?
Yeah, Calendly. But before Calendly was connected to that old email address that was connected to Workspace, right? I just switched. Once I realized that all I had to do was switch my Calendly to my Gmail, and it was like fine, right? So it's like I got Calendly going. But it's this idea of people creating an event in their calendar and then using the invite people, and then that has to sync to your calendar.
Matt,
Yeah,
I'm still going to say I'm a little bored of this topic. I know you love it.
Let's
but
switch.
I want to
Let's
move
go to
on.
the next story. Let's go on. Chasing TikTok, Meta rolls out new Reels feature and expands Instagram Reels to 90 seconds. So there's a lot of new updates happening with Facebook's Creator Studio and Business Suite to integrate with Instagram Reels. So what I've noticed is that Facebook is really doubling down on both Reels and creator-led content. Previously, they were more focused on working with publishers and news and having the Facebook newsfeed be your source to get news, things that are happening now. But
Trying
I
to
think
be
they've
Twitter.
realized, yeah, I guess Twitter has always been about real-time news, but yeah, they're actually very focused. You're right. They are very focused on the publishers side of things. Even when you look at like Twitter Blue is very focused on a news feed for news, right?
Yeah.
But I think that what Facebook has come to realize is that there's a lot of negativity on Facebook. It's not enjoyable to be on to be on Facebook anymore. I think a lot of people feel that way. I don't enjoy it. I don't really even get addicted to the news feed like I used to. I deleted Facebook off my phone around the start of COVID because I was like, I was constantly on there. Like, what's happening? Are we going to die? Like, I was constantly going on it. Then I deleted Facebook completely just so I wouldn't look at it. And then I didn't get it back for almost 2 years until I downloaded it back. But now I find I don't have the tendency to want to scroll my Facebook newsfeed. It's just a pile of garbage, right? A lot of complaining, a lot of BS, right? I find myself on Instagram, but even there, I don't scroll that much because I've been noticing they're putting in a lot more content from people who I don't even follow. They're promoting other profiles. I don't know even how to get your profile featured like that. It's probably a good thing. The ads don't bother me as much. It's whenever I'm scrolling and I'm seeing content from another person's profile who I don't even follow. I'm like, why would you put this here? Like, anyways. So they are doubling down on Reels. So I've seen a lot of reports from other digital marketers who are saying that all they do is upload Reels and Reels get more engagement and more traction than anything. I will verify this is true. I uploaded our first Reels on our web-friendly account last week, and that video did better than any other video I published on the page since we started publishing. It had, I think usually we were averaging like 30 to 50 views, which is not a lot. It's a new page, right? I uploaded the Reel and had over 400.
But this is a story that repeats itself, right? If you go back,
Right.
there was obviously Facebook, and then Snapchat comes out and sort of pioneers this idea of stories, video content that disappears. And then, of course, Mark is the captain of copying, so he went and put stories inside Instagram. And when that happened, of course, they encouraged more use of stories. So if you started sharing stories early days, you got more traffic there than to the timeline. And I feel like this is the same thing. So Reels is chasing TikTok. They want to encourage the use of it. So they're going to get those Reels to be more algorithmically distributed on their platform, Instagram and Facebook. And eventually it'll die down once, it's no longer the latest thing. But I think really the thing to really think about here is how Facebook doesn't innovate. I can't think of a tool that they created as a first innovation on Instagram or on Facebook lately, maybe the last 5-10 years.
They invented the news feed.
And how long ago was that?
Yeah, 2006.
Yeah. So, well, maybe not that long ago, but yeah, long time ago. But since then, it's been Snapchat,
I think it actually
TikTok,
was.
Instagram. They're the ones who really innovate. And rightly so, Facebook has been going backwards, right? So what I find crazy, I had to look it up after you shared this story for today. I was like, I know TikTok, what those are, and I know YouTube has Shorts, which is kind of like their attempt to get in on this short video content game.
Right.
But then I was like, Facebook, they already have stories, and they added Reels, and I was like, I have to actually Google what's the difference between a story and a Reel as per what Facebook's telling us the difference is, right? And so a story is meant to be chronicling your life. It appears as you're doing something, then it disappears. Where a Reel is more like you're dancing to music. Oh, what does that sound like? Or, it's TikTok. So, well,
yeah. I mean, no, I think because the format of it being 9:16 versus 16:9, right?
Yeah.
You're on YouTube, you're watching a video that's 16:9, right?
Screen.
Movie style. Yeah. When you do a vertical video, then you're going to 9:16. So in terms of the format, you could upload a Reel as a story and it will just work that way.
Yeah.
Right.
And the Reel
But
goes
there's a
to
little
the
bit of
timeline
caveat.
as well, right? On Instagram and Facebook.
No, the Reel does. Yeah, the Reel does, right? So they're creating a new tab, or they already created a new tab on Instagram for Reels. It's kind of like when they started with IGTV.
Yeah, what happened
Which
to that?
now allows you, it's still there. It allows you up to 20 minutes videos. So what happens is if you upload a video on your Instagram timeline, if it's 1 minute, it'll just stay on the feed, just like that. As soon as you go over 1 minute, once someone watches past the 1 minute mark, it'll say watch more. that becomes IGTV. And on your profile, you have a tab now that says the IGTV, well, it's the IGTV icon that will show all of your IGTVs, which are basically what it means is videos over 1 minute.
Yeah. Long form
Right?
content.
If it's under 1 minute, it's just on your regular feed. But now, if you upload a reel, they have now increased the length of the reel to 90 seconds. Now, what's kind of funny, interesting, and both also dumb about this is when you upload a story, okay, you can only upload a video up to 1 minute long, and it will chop it up into 15-second little chunks, which means you cannot upload a 90-second video. You would have to upload a 60-second video and then chop out the other 30 seconds and upload that separately.
Right.
It's a very extremely stupid process. But I guess because
Like
Yeah,
TikTok
and they don't
is
want
doing
people-
10-minute long videos now, right? So that like everyone's just like, let's make this
Yeah.
longer. And I got to give credit to YouTube because they stuck to this is YouTube. We do long form, for the main videos, and that's it. Except for now shorts, of course. But
Yeah, that's the thing is that they're doing the shorts thing too, because the thing with TikTok is that the amount of traction they're getting, they're growing faster than how Facebook grew. So they're like a real they're the first real competitor to being like the next social network, right? Like Instagram wasn't as big as how big TikTok is when they got bought out. Right. And TikTok is also gaining traction on YouTube itself. Right now, YouTube has no main competitor. When TikTok starts doing horizontal videos,
long form.
that's going to be a killer to YouTube.
Yeah,
Right?
well, we'll see.
Because a lot of
that's
people
a
don't
different-
like the censorship.
Yeah, but it's a different form of engagement too. Like you have to think about with YouTube, it's Google's video search engine, and a lot of what gets shown, like the reason why YouTube gets discovered is people will go there looking to find a piece of content. I can't imagine, at least it would have to be a change in behavior to go to TikTok and search for an answer to a problem, like a long form video, like how do I fix my bathtub? That's not going to be on TikTok. It's an
They're
entertainment
probably
source.
going to be focused. Yeah, they're going to be focused on entertainment. So
Yeah.
they just created a show. I saw this as I was kind of looking at stuff. They published their first show with one of their TikTok creators. I don't know what kind of show it is. I just noticed that they were produced like a show.
You mean like
I don't
a-
know if it's
TikTok funded and fully produced.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Like a
yeah,
YouTuber.
yeah. And
original.
I don't know whether or not it's 16:9 or 9:16. I don't know. I didn't look into it that much. I was just as you're talking now, I just remembered that I remember hearing about that. So I think that they are going to, remember there was that other company called, I forget what it was called. They were focused on mobile content. They spent like $1 billion.
And they died in
Starts
a
with
year.
a Q.
And now Roku owns all their content.
Yeah. It started with a Q, right?
Yeah, Quibi.
Quibi, yeah. So it's kind of like doing that on TikTok. I can see TikTok being a source for entertainment videos, that sort of thing. Facebook tried to do that with Facebook Watch, and they've kind of killed it off. They don't put a lot of effort into their products, I find, Facebook, Anyways, just to round off this story here, just some new features coming to Reels. You'll be able to add polls, quizzes, and emoji stickers just like you could do on Stories. There's going to be an option to create a template, which I don't know what that looks like, but there's some sort of a quick create template feature. You can now do 90 seconds instead of just 60 seconds. You can import audio from your camera roll into your videos, which I'm curious how that's going to work. And then the big thing is you could schedule Reels on desktop. So when you're using Creator Studio, currently there's no features for Reels at all. You can't upload Reels, you can't schedule Reels, you can't do anything with Reels inside of Creator Studio. And also, just for anyone who's got this far into this video and wants to know about this, when I was trying to figure out how to schedule stories on Facebook and Instagram, I found this really funny. If you try to upload a 1 minute story through Creator Studio, it'll only upload 15 seconds at a time. It won't take 1 minute and chop it up into 4 videos, 4 15-second chunks. Okay, so that means you would have to manually edit your 1 minute or whatever into 15-second chunks. It's super annoying. Okay, so then you go over to Business Suite, same thing, doesn't work. But then if you get the Business Suite app, okay, is the only way that you can upload a 1 minute video that will automatically create 15-second chunks. So if you want to schedule stories, you have to use only the Business Suite app. You can't use the Creator Studio app. You have to use the Business Suite app. It is so stupid. How like there's so many problems with Creator Studio and Business Suite and all that kind of stuff. So I'll be curious to see, is it going to be scheduling Reels in Creator Studio, or is it going to be inside of Business Suite? What the fuck? I don't know. Okay.
It's I love the fact that these tools all start out really simple, and then they turn into like fully fledged editing video tools, right? And then it gets so complicated that it's. I mean, you can still use it.
It's such a mess.
Yeah, it is a mess.
It is like the fact they have Business Suite and Creator Studio, and they have similar features, but there's certain things you could do on one and you can't do in the other. It's like, it is such a mess. Like they need to just have one thing and just make it easier for people. A few other quick things that I noticed as I was browsing around, that now you can have longer usernames on Instagram. It has gone from 30 characters to 64 characters. That's been rolling out to users. Soon you're going to be able to upload 9:16 images. Currently you can't do 9:16. It's another metric of long photo. And then there's going to be a trending tab in Reels coming. So those are some of the other features coming into Reels. So Facebook doubling down on creator-led content over news and publishers and that sort of thing. That's kind of what's interesting about the story. So I found this interesting story here, which was that LinkedIn is adding analytics to posts for anyone who has a creator profile on LinkedIn. We covered this in a past story, that if you want to enable a creator profile, we actually found the URL for this, and I should probably find it again just for the story, but I'll link to it or something in the description of this video. So if you should enable creator mode on your profile. It just gives you more features on your profile. There's no downside to it that I can see. And now you're going to get analytics on your posts. So what I noticed is that this help article on LinkedIn got updated just 2 days ago, which is now talking about how to access your post impressions over the last 7 days. In the analytics of your profile, you can see the engagement, your discovery, your impressions, the demographics, your article performance, who's reading your articles. I assume when they say article, this also work for your LinkedIn newsletter. If you do videos, your peak live viewers, minutes watched, number of views, people who viewed it, and so on. So they're giving you more analytics. But again, you can only get this if you're in creator mode. So this was first kind of noticed, I think, by Twitter user Nima Aoji. I hope I said your name right. Nima has an interesting Twitter profile where he is just finding new features coming in to various platforms. And I thought this was interesting. So he found the tab. I looked on my LinkedIn profile. I don't have this yet, but he was showing kind of what this might look like. And then he also is showing that there's going to be an...
I'm trying to see what I've got in LinkedIn. I mean, I've just got standard impression data on individual pieces of content.
He's showing there's analytics for your page and then analytics for your posts. Both are coming. So basically LinkedIn is giving you more analytics. Yeah. So if you go to your, are you seeing the instructions here on the how to access it? You go to your post, and then you should be able to see like a little icon for analytics.
Yeah, that's what I was just doing. I go to a post.
Do you have creator mode on?
I do. I can't remember. It was a long time ago when it first came out. I switched it on. I have no idea how. It just gave me a notice to do it. And I've got like a view analytics and an impressions link on each piece of content that I share. It's on my screen right now, and it's I can't do much with this. It just tells me I had 105 impressions of a piece of content I shared 4 days ago.
But that's all you see. You're not seeing the demographic and all that?
I am seeing demographics of people reached, which is including like their job title, their location, the company they work for.
I don't see that.
Industries and company size. So it's kind of interesting. I'll switch to locations and see what I've got. So, oh wow, it's actually drilling down to Toronto, Montreal, San Francisco, Chennai, Sydney. Yeah, okay, that's more interesting. Seeing Izmir. 2 people from Izmir looked at it. I don't even know where that is. Turkey.
I'm jealous. I don't have this.
Yeah.
Let's see
So I
here.
mean, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that LinkedIn is not exactly a huge traffic source for me. So my data's very small numbers here, but I could see this getting insightful. Not sure what it would change in my behaviors, but it certainly would give me data on like what's resonating with who, where, and more importantly, the job title thing. I actually find that really interesting. So I've got founder, co-founder, president, owner, and chief executive are all looking at my content. So that means they're probably all like, startup founders or people who consider themselves an entrepreneur, but not a single management person or employee person is looking at my content, which makes complete sense given my background and the kind of content I release. So
You know what I noticed, which was weird, is that the as I started posting more on LinkedIn, I saw that the views were actually going down. So typically,
like total
in
views or
traditional
downs on
sense,
individual pieces of content?
on individual pieces of content, I should say.
Yeah.
I don't have to be able to see like overall, right? But I just find that like typically posting once a day is kind of like what you should be doing at least, right? That's what they say, right?
Yeah, I mean, Gary Vee was
And
pushing
so,
LinkedIn like a lot a while ago, and he was like,
because they give you a lot of like organic reach.
Yeah.
But before, when I only post like once in a while, I would get maybe 100 views. Now I'm looking at my content and 30 to 50 views, stuff like that.
it's just getting busy.
So
It's what I really dislike about social media as a whole. If you use it as your main sort of marketing channel, you can start off and just get blown away. Like this is happening now for people on TikTok, right? They do a little bit and they get a lot rewarded, and then they keep doing it. But then everyone does it. There's way more content fighting for attention, so you get a smaller slice, and then suddenly it's not as useful. And then you're kind of like, okay, where's the next new channel I can be early to,
right.
and I think, not to switch into teaching mode here, but I like building on YouTube and or Google, like written content, because search is never stops. People always search.
It's longevity.
It's I've got
Right.
to find an answer to a question. So and someone said, but you can search Facebook, and I says no one goes and searches for Facebook to find information. It's just thrown at them when they're looking to be entertained, which is the same thing about LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok. They're all ultimately like a social entertainment distraction tool, not a let's solve a problem tool, not a search intent tool, maybe a discovery tool.
That's right.
You could use them possibly. Like I do, I'm embarrassed to say this, I sometimes like seeing ads on these platforms because it shows me what tools and software and people are doing in certain industries. I don't like them all, maybe 10%. So that's kind of helpful. It's discovery for new things. But outside of that, it is just scrolling, entertainment or even distraction.
I have a theory on ranking on Google and social media. I think that traditionally when Google first started, it was all about backlinks and page rank,
Yeah.
right? That was
Good
like
old
the
days.
traditional, yeah, right. So what I think is that they know now people are gaming the backlinking system. It's so easy to game, right? But when it comes to social shares and social engagement, I remember like many years ago now, they paid for the Twitter fire hose, and that Twitter tweets and stuff were showing up in Google results for about a year. They were paying for that. Do you remember that? I forget what year it was, like maybe
We're
2012.
talking a long time ago. Yeah, I don't think I've seen Twitter
You know-
in search results for a long time now. Yeah.
Yeah, it only happened for about a year. And so I think that Google perceives what happens on Twitter as important, as a ranking factor anyways.
I agree.
And because Twitter is, majority public, right? Versus, Facebook, a lot of private profiles and stuff. I don't know how crawlable and all that stuff, right? Yeah, so Twitter's like more public. So I always had the strategy where there's some tools you could use. You put your content in and it gets you lots of shares, social shares, right? So a lot of the content that we rank number one for on Google are the ones that I had put into these platforms and that have hundreds, if not thousands of shares, and they all rank number one. I've never done any backlinking strategy. So I think as you build your brand on social, I think it helps your rankings on Google. I don't know about YouTube, but definitely on Google.
I agree, and it makes sense. Like it's much more common for a piece of content to be shared on social as opposed to like when I got started, sharing a piece of content was you went to your blog and you wrote about someone else's article in your article. That was what sharing was. You'd link to it and that's what built
Right.
Google's whole system of looking at incoming links to rank content, which they can't really
Right.
do. Like, I mean, social, but I think to be fair, it's like an interconnected system. You've got something that goes and gets shared more on social is also more likely to get then written about in other blog posts and content, and therefore
right.
that gets the rankings coming in. So it's kind of, it's a big machine that is the internet, and there's all these factors working together, and some are direct and some are more behind the scenes. But I think if you rely on what you just talked about, just doing social sharing, I wouldn't count on that to be a way to rank well. I would never like recommend that and say, just focus on social virality and your blog posts are going to start ranking well too. I really doubt that would happen.
Well, are you thinking because the quality of the content?
I'm just
Or-
thinking because I've never, like in terms of all the SEO I've ever studied, no one ever says just focus on your social as your backlinking strategy. They will always say you've got to generate some links from some kind of more authoritative sites in your neighborhood, in whatever topic.
Maybe a little. I think you can't have zero backlinks, right?
Right.
But I think even if you had some no follow backlinks on like Quora, for example, or you leave a few comments on some blogs, stuff like that. In a very basic level, you do a press release once.
Yeah, for a
right?
long tail
But
result. Like if you're talking about something that's got very little competition, for sure you don't need much.
Yeah, I mean phrases, not long tail, but phrases, not like a single word, right? Like we're not going to rank on the word blogging,
Well, let's
or
say
something like that, right?
I want to buy a see-through umbrella, and you want to rank for that, like a clear see-through umbrella. So it's like long tail.
Yeah, no, I think I could.
It's
No, Yaro, I think I could rank for that, which is social shares.
okay. All right, let's see you do that.
But like good content, of course. If I had a really good piece of content on the best see-through umbrellas, and then I just got 1,000 shares on Twitter, I bet you I'll rank top 3. I'm telling you, this is an SEO strategy. I know, but that's the thing is that I've done a lot of this, and off the air, I could kind of show you some of my data. But I'm telling you, I've been doing this for a long time, and nobody talks about it. And I honestly believe that this is a big ranking factor. I think the quality of your content is number one, right? If you can't do this with like a blank page or some crappy content or a page that has nothing to do with the topic, it's not going to work.
Yeah,
right?
and your
You need
competition
to have,
too. Don't forget that, because your post can be great, but if the other person's post is also great, it's going to be like who has the better quality links that decides who wins.
No, it's going to be who has the most shares. I think.
Oh,
I think.
I think. Why on earth is Google like? They can't.
I mean, sorry, wait. No. If you have backlinks from like very authoritative sites, okay, fine, maybe that'll work. But most people who are doing backlinking, they're doing the cold email. Hey, will you link to my article? Here's $50. I get these emails all day long, right? Like those kind of links are not really gonna but if you're getting, backlinks from huge authoritative sites, yeah, okay. Right. But I think there's definitely something in it on these social shares.
I agree there has to be some kind of ranking factor. It's funny as you say this. I had a laugh in my head because the most common, more authoritative linking source that people like, I've been researching this too because I've wanted to rank some of my more new content and even my old business, go back and try and get to rank again. And I was Googling what's the current advice for getting authoritative links. And it's the same that people have been talking about for 10 years. You have to get the gatekeeper, whoever it is, the controller of the content on a high valued site, whether it's an individual blogger or
Yaro, I'm telling you.
But I just want to get
Give me an article.
One point though.
Okay, go.
The journalist. I realized that journalism in general, obviously mainstream news, has been something that's obviously declining, and they call it a dying trade. But journalists are actually the gatekeepers still to high authority links. So it's almost like they have this one key, very modern, very current, fresh, valuable thing they control is they can link to your website on the Huffington Post, on news.com.au in Australia, all these big authoritative sites.
Sure.
So,
But they give you no follow links, right?
that's a good question. I don't know what's the
They
policy
do.
for all the biggest sites.
I checked. Most of them give you no follow links unless you're doing a sponsored piece of content. In the majority of the way, I think it's no follow links.
So basically,
But hey,
you get it if you
Yaro,
pay for it.
Yeah, and it's like $5,000 to go on like Forbes.
Which is the
like
opposite of what Google says. We don't want you to be buying links. They want you to get it from merit.
Because you're buying sponsored content, and then that comes with the follow link. Otherwise, typically you get a no follow link.
Yeah.
So if you run a press release, you end up getting a bunch of links. Some no follow, some follow. It's a mixture. It's a mixed bag. But hey, I'm gonna get you shoot me over your article that you want to rank. Okay.
I don't have a see-through umbrellas articles.
Okay, no. I'm going to prove this to you, okay? And maybe we could follow up on another show. You give it to me. Let me go do my thing, and you'll see I will get you tons of social shares, okay? Maybe I'll probably get you like 500 social shares, okay? Real quick. And then you're going to see, boom. It'd probably take like 30 days or so by the time, Google comes back, crawls your site, or go to your search console and run a thing.
And
then
how competitive a term? Like if I give you,
you give me anything.
So like,
I mean, a phrase. I need a phrase, not a term.
Okay.
So a phrase.
Well, I've got some good ones on my blog. Some competitive ones, like how to
you tell me
how to sell your online course, or how to make money blogging.
No,
those kind of top level.
No, I don't think those. Probably won't like that. There's going to be more ranking factors for because those people are probably spending a lot of money. You could try it, but like if you wanted one like.
So basically, you're telling me there's some conditions to this little gamble you've got. That's what you're saying to me.
I mean,
saying,
yeah,
I'll
there's
do it
people
as
who
long
are.
As I know I'd be able to do it. Is what you're saying.
No, I mean like if there's like a high, how they show on these search tools about like the average cost per click. If that average cost per click that people are paying on Google Ads is very high, that means these companies are probably spending a lot of money to promote those articles to rank, which. A bunch of social shares might not outrank it, right? So we could try it. I'm down to just see how much of
do an SEO experiment.
Truth there is. Yeah, do a little SEO experiment. But I'm telling you, I've done a lot of this, and all the articles that I want to rank, and I put effort into writing a good article. Did this share thing? I'm ranking top 3. Okay. I'll show you later.
Okay.
Another real quick thing about what you were sharing on, the value of posting on social media versus searchable content on Google and YouTube and that sort of thing is I had found when I was doing my events at Internet Masterminds, when I would run a webinar, we would get way higher conversions than anyone else. Like I would do joint ventures with people, and they would come on, do a webinar, and make a pitch at the end, and they would say that they would have higher conversions than any other person they had worked with in the past. And same thing for me. When I would make an offer in my webinars, I would be closing like 30%. But if I would do it on somebody else's thing, it would be way lower. So what I believe is because I had this engagement with my community, and in this case, it was live events that people knew me in person. They knew me, right? And this feeling of being a social media celebrity, what you want is to give people the idea or the feeling like they know you. Right? You see someone like a Gary Vee or, one of these people that you might follow online. Like you feel like you know them because you've seen them so much on video. You know so much about them. You know what their kids' names are. You know where they grew up. You know that he's from Belarus and all that kind of stuff, right?
Not Belarus.
So it's like you feel like you know.
Bad place to be from right now, but yes.
Yeah, but you get the idea there, right?
Yeah.
So then when he makes you an offer for VFriends or whatever it is, you're buying because you feel like you know him, right?
So like I studied internet marketing, and this is before social media, and I remember so clearly, I think it was Harlan Kilstein, I'm not sure if I'm getting his name right, old school internet marketer from late 90s, early 2000s. And he wrote this newsletter, and it said, the number one objective of all your content is not to make money, it's not to make sales. It says it's for you to make friends with your audience. That's right. It. And I was like, okay, I can do that. That makes sense to me. And I remember to kind of validate what you're saying about live events and that sort of stronger, or webinars, but any kind of very personal connection. I was at a small networking event in my hometown, and someone came up to me, and the first thing they said to me was like, oh, how's your fridge? And I was like, what do you mean, how's my fridge? And he said, yeah, I saw on Twitter that you were selling your fridge, or it was broken or something, and you're getting it repaired. And my mind was like, this is a complete stranger who knows something about the inside of my house in a very intimate level. And I was like, this is like a demonstration of that level of connection they have, because I've been sharing these kind of background stories. And that to me was really powerful, because it's like, wow, I can just talk about my day and my life and in general, and that leads to selling more of my stuff, which is like, okay, that's cool.
I had a similar story. I grew up in Richmond, and usually when I'm in Richmond, I always bump into people I know from high school. This is many years ago. I was filling up gas back when I had a gas car, and then I saw an old guy that we were friends on Facebook. I haven't talked to him for a long time. I went to high school with him, and he saw me there, and he just came up to me, and we just started chatting, and he started telling me, "Oh, how was this event you did? And I saw you went on a trip, and and he knew my whole life, and he was just, and we never communicated on Facebook or nothing, right? But it was like instant connection together because it was this feeling of like he knew me, which is funny now because I become like I kind of value privacy a lot more, and over the last few years, even last 3 years, I haven't like shared as much because I often feel like, why am I sharing? And I think about like sometimes it's like vain. I feel sometimes it's vain,
Vanity.
or it's like, yeah, it's vanity, and it's like, am I sharing because I want something? Like, am I trying to become popular because I want to sell something, or am I sharing because I want to connect with people? So whenever I'm posting, it's like I always think about that. Like, why am I sharing? Before, when I used to share, I considered my Facebook timeline as a timeline of my life. So when I was posting these photos of things I was doing, it was for my memory. And I love it now. I can't delete my Facebook profile because there's a timeline of all these photos of my whole life.
Yeah.
Right. And without that, let's say if I died, there would be no way to remember me in all those stories. Right. So sometimes I'm doing things and I want to share, and then I feel like I don't want to overshare, or then I think about like this. I want to share this for me because I want this on my timeline, but then I don't want to seem like I'm just trying to promote. And it's weird right now, right?
You're making me think of a meme. I don't know if maybe the editor can pull it up, but there's one of those cartoon sketches of these two little kids sitting in front of a screen, and it's like something in the future, like 2080 or something, and the two little kids are saying, boy, great grandma really liked to twerk back during her days, and it's like a picture of grandma back when maybe TikTok was out, and all she did was videos of her butt, dancing and stuff. And this is something that we're the first sort of generations where the future generations will have this content about us no matter what age we are, assuming you're tracking yourself on some way on social media. And I think that's great. I mean, a lot of people say it's also not great because of the whole social media and, it's not really connecting on a real level. But I would love to have had my, great grandmother, grandfather from wherever they were living in Eastern Europe, where my background is, and just seeing it, like they were chronicling life in the farm, slaughtering the pig to make the food, just whatever it was to see what their life was like back then. But so I think it's great for the future.
It's funny. I had a friend of mine before Facebook came out with Facebook Timeline, and he's a startup guy, tech guy, and he was talking about making an application where you would like share your photos on a timeline with your family. So that way you could see your life. It was like a private thing between
like
your
a personal
family.
social media. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and then Facebook timeline. They ended up calling your Facebook profile your timeline. If you remember that, there used to be like years on the side. You can go through your timeline and stuff, and it was like, so it's just kind of interesting about like what you share and why you share. So with this show, when we create this content, I believe this content to be a good curation of news for people in the industry, and I think it'd be valuable, and that's why I like sharing it, because it's the kind of show that I would watch. So that's why I'm happy sharing this stuff. But when it comes to my personal life and marketing myself and that sort of thing, that's where I start kind of feeling like, like less feeling like sharing. I value the privacy, and I start questioning like, why do I care to share, and and so on, right?
I remember a friend of mine back in my 20s. He made this comment. He says, everything we ever do is about getting laid. That's what he said to me. He's like, you posting something online, it's about getting laid. You're trying to grow a big business, you're saying it's about money and survival, but it's really about getting laid. He had this comment, everything was tied to sex. And I was like, I don't quite 100% agree with that, but I certainly agreed with the sentiment of looking at the motivation behind the action. And I was thinking, because at the time I was selling, personal branded business. I had my own courses. Everything was about living the lifestyle that I live. And I was considering buying a car, and I ended up buying this BMW, which at the time in Australia, not super expensive, but certainly not entry-level kind of car. And some of my friends said, yeah, you totally should get that. You can write it off as a business expense. You can, take all the photos with it. It's kind of proof of concept of what you're doing. It'll probably end up making you more sales of your stuff than the cost of the car itself. So easy to rationalize, in my mind to do something like that. But like you, I think as I've gotten, especially the last sort of 5-10 years, I don't share nearly as much either. Part of that's because I'm not trying to project a lifestyle ideal, but I'm seeing the generations that are coming now and after me, they're doing that. That's what Instagram is. That's what a lot of these social media channels are. It's like, here's my car, here's all these amazing experiences I'm having when I travel, here's my beautiful boyfriend or girlfriend. It's like aspirational, live this life, which is unfortunately also what's wrong about social media. It's what makes people feel sad and like FOMO, missing out. And I can only imagine, I feel so sad and so grateful that I didn't grow up as a teenager and younger than that with social media, because seeing what my friends were doing on a Friday night on Instagram or stories or TikTok right now and knowing that I wasn't invited to that would have been brutal as a 14-year-old. So I'm glad I didn't have to go through something like that at that age.
You know what? I have another feeling about that. I feel like this idea that you want to go out and do cool things so that way you can post on social media, I used to embrace that. I used to feel like, I remember I used to use this example a lot where in Vancouver we have a hike called the Grouse Grind. You're aware of it, right? And I remember, while social media was peaking, 2009, 2010, it was first coming out, the Grouse Grind was peaking all of a sudden. In my perspective, I'd never heard of the Grouse Grind. All of a sudden, everyone was always posting a picture at the top of the Grouse Grind, right? And I thought that people were doing it so that they could post, right? And then so when I started embracing this idea of go out and do cool stuff so that you could post it online and look cool, it made my life better. It made me want to go out and do cool things versus stay home.
That you wouldn't have otherwise done because you were motivated to get the glory photo.
Often I was like, I need to post something to make people think I'm cool, right?
Yeah.
In a sense, right? Therefore, I will go out. I will go to this party. I will go to this event so I could go there and get a picture. It was subconscious in many ways, but also sometimes I think it was a little bit conscious of like, going out and travel. Like there was this kind of like side benefit of it. It was like, when I do this, I'm going to take a picture. People are going to think I'm cool. Yeah. I get more gratification, or whatever you want to call it, or more validation, right? Because I'm getting all these likes and shares. I look cool. People think I'm cool. And it totally works and it's totally true. All that, right? So that's why I think that's like, I get the idea of like people are just kind of showing off. What happens is when you fake it, right? When you start trying to only show how rich and successful you are versus check out what I ate for dinner.
Yeah.
You want people to feel like they really know you, and it's like if they know the real you versus you trying to portray or project somebody who you're not. I think that's where the issue comes in. So
as long as you shed some tears and cry every now on social as well, talk about the bad stuff,
Well, I don't know. I think sometimes I'm also like I see people doing that too, and it's like. So speaking of getting laid, Kitty Lixo, I think I'm saying her name Lixo. Kitty Lixo. It's probably Lixo because like lick. Anyways, Kitty Lixo went viral for claiming on a podcast that she had sex with not one but 3 employees from Instagram. So in other news, I just got a job at Instagram. I'm part of the department of
integrity department.
I'm part of the integrity department now. So so this actually ended up getting covered like on Rolling Stone. So good for her. She got like a lot of good press for this. I would say. I think it's pretty funny.
Good press or press? Let's just say it's formal.
I mean,
press.
for her, for what I think she's like an OnlyFans sort of like she's kind of like a porn star,
for
right? So for her, this is great. This is awesome, right? Like I think this is really good for her. But what's funny about this, and I want to kind of touch on this. So obviously, like, maybe she, who knows if this is even a true story. Probably is a true story, actually. I would imagine it is. But I've been hearing about a lot of people's accounts on Instagram getting shut down. So I actually recently heard about a business that was on Instagram. Account got shut down. She had, I think, 70,000 followers. Got shut down. No reason. Just account was gone. She couldn't access it anymore. Fast forward like 3 weeks later, she gets a notification from Instagram, we're sorry, your account was suspended by accident.
Oh, wow.
And this is somebody running like a legitimate business. I'm pretty sure it's a 7-figure business.
Oh, gosh.
And then relies on her Instagram quite a bit. And it's crazy to me that they do this. Like that's just one story of many that I've heard of people. Like actually there was another story I kind of ran through of a company that when they put their age on, I think it was on Twitter Yeah, I think it was a Twitter thing. They put their age on Twitter. It was the age of their company, their business profile, right? So all of a sudden, Twitter is asking for them to confirm their age because they thought they were underage, right? And because of that, their Twitter account got shut down because they were talking about the age of their company, not the person. They're a business.
Wow. Okay.
Right. And it got shut down. It got reinstated. But what a headache. Right.
Yeah.
And lucky for them, they got it back, I think, the same day. But I've heard a lot of people just losing their accounts and just,
I think
it's like,
I've been using TikTok a little more recently, and I think a lot of people there have 2 or 3 accounts running for that reason. They often you'll see in the description, they say, this is my backup account, because they're so used to their accounts just being deleted.
I see it all the time.
Yeah. And I it's an interesting development because it's not new to lose your account, right? I remember the day an external platform became your main traffic source was the day you're vulnerable to that platform changing the rules. It's
crazy.
And
it's crazy.
YouTube was probably the first one I can think of where people would say, "Oh yeah, I had a buddy. He had a YouTube channel, 50 million views, gets deleted. Ended up being a bit of a silver lining. He had to go and create a second account, and then that kind of helped him to kind of get even bigger exposure and more traffic. But it was a lot of work to restore it all. But it's always been the case. This is why I've always grown my email newsletter rather than any other tool as my main thing, because no one can sort of switch that off. But if you rely on a social media platform, you've got to expect the fact that at some point there's a chance you will be deleted. What I think is more worrisome, I have a buddy who's in Ukraine right now. He's Ukrainian, and he's doing news coverage of it. And he said his TikTok account got banned because Russians all flagged it as false news. And of course, it's false news to Russians, because the Russians are going to say that him posting pictures of things going on in his country is not really what the Russians are doing there, And whatever the case is, the fact that that can happen and there isn't a better way to first kind of mediate this. I understand the platforms have to maybe come back to it afterwards. Let's delete it first and then figure out whether it should be up or not, rather than let's figure out whether it should be up or not and then delete it. It's kind of it's just the way it is. But it's
even you look at the censorship of the first person who got really deplatformed was Alex Jones, right?
Yeah.
And it really probably hurt his business a lot, right? And now he even got sued, and I don't know if you know the whole story about him, but he's going bankrupt and stuff. But they really went after him, right? And I remember Nelk Boys Full Send. They had at Full Send on Instagram, and they were posting news about things going on. And then I forget what the news thing was. They posted something. I think it might have been about Ukraine. I think, and then I could be wrong about that. And then the whole account got shut down. They can't get it back.
Yeah.
And they had a few million followers.
There's no such thing as an unbiased platform, right? There's going to be a bias on what's allowed and what's not. So this is actually, I know I keep bringing things back to Web3, but one of the main arguments for Web3 as a protocol, as a way of distributing content, is to have no central body that controls what can be said or not said. But I also find that scary, because just like with this Russian scenario, if a bunch of people gather together and all report your profile, just because that's the way the system's built, to be like mob rule. If enough people get together and just decide to cancel someone, they're canceled regardless of what they did or did not do. So it's going to be hard. This is a very.
So do you think even in the Web3 world that's possible, or it's not?
For sure, it will. We don't have a good moderation system that's foolproof. We never will, though. It's we'll never have a perfect political system. We'll never have a perfect media system, because you're always going to have people who disagree. That's normal. But then the way you decide when a line has been crossed and something needs to be removed or changed, and everyone disagrees on what that is and what should be allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. But if you have a moderation system that's based on a majority or a group coming together and all clicking what do you call it? The button that I could say, report. Matt posted content button I disagree with because he said something about getting laid. Enough people say that, then your post is taken down. So it's not an easy answer. There's no foolproof solution, but I do think it's getting better. What I also don't like is the idea of what people talk about with Facebook. There's a leadership group in Facebook, and it's really just Mark Zuckerberg ultimately who then decides what and what can't be on the platform. Just like with it's funny because I'm not a fan of Trump, but then he was deleted from Twitter, which I think for net society was a good thing. For freedom of speech was a bad thing. So I really have trouble kind of correlating that. I agree and disagree with that happening.
Interesting. Yeah, I disagree with the thing because I feel like I think it's good to have different sides, you know, like people having different opinions, let's just say. I think when it comes down to like hate speech, bullying, that sort of thing, you know, I think that's, you know, could be banned. I think that's good, you know.
Yeah, but what is hate speech?
But
Again,
when
you know, it's like everything's in the granularities.
well, no, I think hate speech is pretty clear. It's like, you know, saying that you are against somebody for.
What about
you know,
what these comics making a joke? And no, it's not hate speech. It's a joke. Should they be, you know, brought down?
Right,
or not,
right,
you know?
right, right. Yeah. I see what you're saying there. Yeah. Is a.
Let's switch this to a politics podcast. There you go, Matt.
Yeah. Well, anyways.
But I think, you know, to bring it back to our topic of creators, that's an interesting topic in itself. You know, what subjects, I think back to Logan Paul and what happened to him when he went to Japan, you know, and he went into a sacred place and was looking at dead bodies, and he had a massive backlash. But then, of course, it turned into the narrative of Logan Paul coming back from that. And, you know, he moved on to box and go on WWE and all these kind of things. So there's all these narratives you can play with. But I think it's important as a creator to understand your own morals and ethics around what you're doing and then what you're trying to achieve. Like, I don't think it's cool to climb Grouse Mountain to get a nice photo. Maybe not so cool to desecrate a sacred place and, you know, just for the sake of getting more views. You know? So draw the line where you think is appropriate.
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with that. I think it's, you know, but in many cases, it's kind of, it feels like the rules are changing and the rules are different for different people, right?
Well, like this story you just shared, is this, you know, should someone be getting favoritism because they had sex with certain people in Facebook?
Yeah, I know people who do the same thing to get the blue check mark, right?
Really?
They know people. I'm not saying they sleep with them, but they know people on Instagram who will give them. Like, there's been reports about it. We can probably find it of Instagram employees who were paid to give blue check marks out, right? And then they got fired. They got caught, right? And they were taking in cash and like, sure, I'll go give you a blue check mark. And that was one of the ways people were getting blue check marks.
Right.
Dude, we should do a story about the blue check mark. Remember we were talking about that off
totally.
the air?
Yeah.
We should actually add that in as for the next episode.
I'd love to get JJ on the show if you want for that, because that's what he sells right now.
Yeah, let's do it. And then, because I have theories on blue check marks. I haven't like gone in to try to really get one.
The conspiracy of the blue check mark, right?
I think I know a way to get a blue check mark. So we could talk about it on a future episode. Okay. Anyways, let's wrap it up. Guys, if you're listening to this, obviously you can subscribe wherever you want. But we also have a Spotify playlist. So if you're looking for music to jam out to, there is always in the description for all of our episodes. So just go check out the description, and then it's a shared playlist, which means that you can add music to it. So Yaro, if you want to add some of the jams that you like to listen to while you're working, you can go into there and just add in the songs that you like.
How do you feel about you know,
contributors?
Happy hardcore, vocal trance? You know, what's your music taste there?
Whatever like gets you going when you're at work.
Okay.
I'm curious to see what kind of music people add in there. Okay. So it could be a rock song, it could be whatever you want. Oh, yeah. So people can decide if they like it or not. So. Yeah, that's it, guys. Let's wrap it up, and we'll see you on the next one.